And we are live. Greetings, fellow traders. Let me get this tweeted out for everybody so we can get started here. 1 second. Everybody can join in. Okay, that has been tweeted. Has been twoten. And so, good stuff. Good stuff. All right. Well, I hope everybody had a great trading day today. Today is Thursday, September 26, 2019. Today we're going to finish up our conversation on getting street smart. So before we get started here, just want to click that. Just want to remind everybody that everything we're going to talk about today is for educational purposes only. Exclamation for non-investment advice. Okay, nothing here is investment advice, just educational purposes. So take a moment, review all this. If you're watching the recording, you feel free to pause the video and read through it. Okay, good stuff. All right, so at this point here, let's see where we're at in the market. So today, relatively bullish day, bearish day, right? We're down, 7.25 points today. Looks like we've got a little follow through after hours here on the S&P futures. Of course, these days, back in the days, being down 6 points was huge. These days, it's like kind of commonplace. We could be down 6, up 10, down 20, up 50. I mean, this is how it's been the last couple the last 2 months or so. So it's been pretty wild, right? And you can see right here, on the monthly when everything kind of started, right? Everything kind of got going right back in, right? Everything's cool, right? All the way up through 2017, and then the volatility started kicking in, right? Right when 2018 started, right? So many big moves, right? And so we've seen some huge ranges. Even last month, everybody's really super bearish, right? But I mean, it was nothing like any of these past moves, right? So it was just basically a little red hammer that it ended up with, and now everybody's kind of starting to get bearish again. But understandably, we're kind of at these all-time high levels, right? We had an upper shadow at the last all-time high, upper shadow here, and now we're putting an upper shadow this month. There's only a couple days left in the month, right? And what that means is there's only a couple days left in the quarter because the new quarter starts next month. So, but there's good news with that, right? At the end of the quarter, right, there's new flows that come in, and then like my good friend SMDC4S says, a little bit of window dressing here at the end of the quarter is possible too. So we might see a little ramp up in the end, or if not, we might see a little inflow at the beginning of next quarter as the big money management firms flow money into the market. So and then earnings season starts next month. So there's a lot to look forward to, right? Now if if the money doesn't flow in and the earnings are bad next month, yeah, we can start to see some really nasty stuff, right? And there's a lot of political tension going on right now too. So there's all sorts of stuff, and it's all cooked into the prices of the market, right? The market reflects all that. So this is where we're at. We're kind of at this kind of middle point right here on the monthly, upper shadow. So a little bit nervous at the tops, right? So and it makes sense too because the Fed is cutting interest rates every time we get to these levels. It's like why are we cutting rates if the economy is really good, right? So the market starts to digest all that stuff. So anyway, continuing, right? So we have a spinning top here on the weekly. Right, so yesterday, remember, it was just like a slightly green doji, and now it's like a red spinning top on the weekly. So we got one more day left to see if they can push that up. It'd be pretty wild, right, if we had a big finish tomorrow to finish the week with a green hammer. So as we can see this week, right, we had a kind of a small start. Big second day, right? And then a little bit of kind of compressed range right here. So big outside day here on Tuesday, right? And so today is kind of interesting, right? It's like kind of this little inside day, and the SPY had a little bit less volume too. So that's kind of something to keep in mind as well. So let's take a look here. So on the macro chart, on the geometric chart, right? So I just kind of put these little trend lines up right here so everybody can kind of see what's going on, right? But we do have this gold channel right here that we've been kind of following, all through the last year and a half or so. A little bit more, almost 2 years, and it's kind of working its way up. Hit the top of the channel here, came back down to the pitchfork median line, right, midpoint line, and sorry, median line, and then 1, 2, 3 down, and then back up. Now we have this open gap right here on the SPX, and honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if it came back down and filled that. Now, right now, the temporary trend is down. It hasn't really thrust below any of these minor pivots, but it's working on it, on a downtrend right here. So we have to be careful, right? And another push down, really could, kind of get things going. So. But either way, if it does fill the gap and holds this support zone, it is what it is, right? I mean, we just have this kind of choppy mess, kind of been in this range for a little bit, and it might work its way back up to the top of the channel, which would then be all-time highs. And then we'll see if it can hold that, or if it rejects it like it did here, right, and here. Those are kind of the idea right there. So let's take a look at the price action today. These are the levels that we tweet out to our members, right, in the private group, and they're really helpful, right? Because price likes to do what? It likes to test levels, right? It likes to test levels. It likes to have trends, and it likes to test levels. So we can see here at the beginning of the day, right, even from yesterday, right, that the trend was beginning to work its way down, right? And so here we are. So this was the downtrend this morning. We can see it tested this level, kind of came down, little hammer, tested the top of that level. No, not so much. Back down, tested tested at this level right here, back up, trend line, down, level, tried to break down, couldn't do it, tried to break down again, couldn't do it, right? Kind of a little bit of a double bottom right there. Nice bounce, tested this level, pause right here, up here, held this level, right? Upper shadow right here at this level, came back down, right? This reverse big bar, it says it wants to go back up, right? Came back up, tested this level, right? Hung around the volumetric level right here, and then finally came up basically yesterday's close, and well, yeah, and then basically then closed below it right here, so and held like the daily pivot. So that's basically where we're at, kind of what happened there. So very very interesting stuff, and it's fun to watch price action. It's it can be tedious, but at times it can be very rewarding, right? So if, once we understand the way that shadows work and the way that different levels. The way that price handles different levels and how it can indicate to us whether or not it is liking it or not, right? So very very good stuff. So good. So tonight, pretty cool topic. We're gonna conclude the discussion on street smarts, right? And so one of the things I just kind of wanted to go over here is tonight's thing. I don't have really a PowerPoint prepared on it because it's really really easy stuff. And it's a cool name. It's called the spike and ledge. Okay, so what is the spike and ledge? The spike and ledge is basically just a setup, right? It's not a traditional chart pattern or anything like that, but it's a move where where we see a big spike in the market, right, and then a change, right, or so basically a spike, a ledge, and then a breakdown from that ledge. Okay, and so what I really what I like about this one is it works really well on like our 15 orb stocks that we like. So the 15 orb stocks, just as a quick review, are stocks that are gapping on some sort of news or have some big news cooked into it that makes sense, right? And so one of the things we like about them is just take for instance like Baidu. Baidu puts in like these key levels, right? Puts in our 15 orb, right? And then we can use that 15 orb to trade off of, right? So we can see here on Baidu today, right? We have this, this full 15-minute bar right here and here, right? Then we went inside, right? And then it started to drift down. And then when we put these levels on, right? So let me pull up what we use here. We use the orbit. Size here. So we use orbit on the 15. I'll just make sure, give me 1 second here as I pull this up. So if no, okay, good. So that looks pretty good. All right, so you can see these levels right here show where the 15 orb was. And what happened? On days where we have, gaps or earnings, right, we can use these levels and for potential breakdown points or breakout points, right? So we can see here one of the things that's really interesting about the first 15 orb on Baidu, right, is to put this big top upper shadow, right, and that created that level. So what that shows is kind of generally like the tone of the day is bearish, right? So we kind of came back down, we tested the lower orb, and then we had this big confirmation bar that pushed through, right? And then that's a shortable bar off the 15, right? Because it says no, I want to be out of that range. And then look at that, it can move down even from that entry right there, 105, right, all the way down to 103. So a 2-point down move on Baidu today. Okay, so really really good stuff. And you guys might notice here that I have the low of today marked. And why do you think I have that? From our discussion yesterday. What happened? What did we talk about yesterday? We talked about the 3-day unfilled, right? The 3-day unfilled gap, right? And so look what we did. We gapped up today. So this is one to really look at on Baidu. So if we flush below these lows, that's an entry once we cross below the low of today, and the low of today was 103.51. So if we push below there, we could see a quick move down to like 103 and maybe a little bit more of a move into that range. But as a good scalping tactic that we can look at, into tomorrow, if it's not gapping down tomorrow, of course, we're down like 10 points, or so on the S&P. But anyway, so the spike and ledge is great. So that's just sort of an example to show you how the 15 orbs work. And so what we look for is one thing we can look for is a spike, right? And I think the 5-minute chart or the 3-minute chart is fine. As we could look for a spike on that, right, and then a ledge, and then a breakdown around that ledge, right? So now typically when we see this, right, it has a little bit of a move, but one thing we can see here on Baidu is, right, we had this initial move, so ignore that, but then we had this quick spike up, right, and then it put in this ledge pattern, right? So there's your spike and your ledge. And so real quick, we can go here, right, kind of call this the ledge right here, and we can enter. Let me clean that up a little bit here, make it a little bit brighter. Let's call it this. Okay, so there's the ledge, okay? And so once we break down out of that ledge, we can short, right? So we had the 15 orb right here, which is great, but we could have got in a little bit earlier here using the spike and ledge pattern. So we had a spike, then we had a ledge, and then we came back down, okay? And so this is one example. And so how do we trade it? Well, we short when we break out of ledge, and we put our stop at the top of it, right? So this is called the spike and ledge. So let me show you an example on the other side. So that was neat from this this 15 orb list stock. Okay, good. So so let's take a look at another one, right? So let's look at Vive. Vive was a very interesting one. So we've had our eyes on this week, right? So what did Vive do today? So it gapped up and then it reversed like really hard. Why is that? Let's go to the daily chart and see. So the daily chart, right? It gapped up to this level right here, but where did it gap to? Right? Yeah, it was nice off of this downward trend line, right? As it continued, but look at that. It gapped right into, right? Kind of some heavy area. So it wasn't a gap and go candidate. If it gapped over this level right here, this minor pivot, it had a better chance of moving up. But when it can't get over major levels like that, chances are it reverses, right? This is just something that we look at as part of our gap and go strategies, right? So that's what we look at on gappers. So this one failed. So let's take a look at that. So one, we had the 15 orb, right? So we could have done a 15 orb short on this. And why could we have considered doing that? Because just what we looked at right there, just what we looked at, right? So we didn't gap above a major level, so it has a good high probability of reversing. So we had a 15 orb there, and look what it did. It had a big upper shadow. So what did that do? That set the tone for the day, right? And then we broke down here, right? And we had this nice push down. I like down inside bar and then down, right? So it could have made profit down here, right? Or even held a little bit inside bar back down there. So that was a move all the way from 157 down to 151. So, you know, if we just want to see like real quick what that looked like on the options this morning, we could look at the October puts and just look at maybe like the 155s, right, and just see what they did. So obviously they're going to be inverted to this. Now, Vive isn't like a you know, super liquid option stock, but here's a general idea. This is the first 15-minute bar, right? So the entry there is about $4, and you can see this went all the way up to $6.50, a 2.5-point move just on that reversal on the 15 orb stock that we use. Okay. So good tactics, right? All right, so the example today is, you know, spike, right, and ledge. And so let's take a look at the spike and ledge today. So clearly, we had a big spike down. Let's look and see what that looks like on the shorter time frame. Okay, so we had this big spike down today, okay? So we're basically looking for, oh, wow, doesn't this look like a pretty nice ledge right here? I mean, it's really, really choppy, right? So at some point, this thing, you know, would possibly break out, right? So what we can do is we can put, let's say, like right there off of that level there, right? Here's this, change the color of that. Make it look a little interesting. Okay, we can make it, no, we keep it the same color. Okay, so there we go. So there's our spike, there's our ledge, and so we look for a breakout out of this ledge, right? And so this was a really nice bar to try to take an entry, right? It's a very nice, you know, nice candle. So the idea is we go along here, we put a stop at the bottom, and we go, right? So that was 153. All the way up to 156. So a nice 3-point move, 2-point stop. So it ended up being, you know, a 2 to 3 risk reward basically. So so really, really nice stuff. So we had 2 good trades on Vive today, right? So Vive with the 15 orb breakdown, right? And then with the spike and ledge. So good stuff. And that, my friends, is the end of this discussion. So at this point, if anybody has any questions or chart requests, please feel free to plug those into the chat window, and we'll get through as many as we can, and we'll try to wrap up by 10:30 so we can all get a great night's sleep and finish up Friday. And just remember, tomorrow is Friday, and so that means it is option expiration day on the weeklies, so be very, very careful if you are planning on swinging anything, because you might get assigned, so consider trading next week's options. So that being said, let me just real quick before I jump in here, let me make sure see if Shirley sent an email tonight. She did. Let me just write that down real quick, and then we'll get to everybody's stuff. So Shirley said AbbVie, TSM, XLU, Kim, and EXC. Okay, cool. All right, good stuff. Session, what's going on? Early bird, awesome. McDonald's, yeah, let's take a look. Let's see how things are doing today. Okay, MCD. Let's take a look. Oh, boy, McDonald's. Again, it is just clawing its way up back through the cloud. You know, we've been waiting for a move on this thing, and it is, upper shadow, right? Upper shadow, upper shadow, upper shadow. I mean, it's just not closing with any sort of bullish behavior or any of these levels. It's really, really frustrating, right? But what it is doing is kind of putting in like a little bit of a, if I can go to the daily chart right here, what it is doing is it's starting to put in a, what I think is a maybe an ABC pattern, right? So to me, it looks like we had a sharp move down, right? So this is either like a wave one, and then this is 2, 3, 4. We could see another sharp move down, or this was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that was the zigzag down. It seems a little flattish up here, and in fact that doesn't work. 1, 2, 3. That didn't work right there. Maybe it had to be through here. So 1, 2, 3, and then we're just 1, A, B, 2. So it looks like it could be working on more downside, honestly, on this thing. And what do we have, right? So we have just these upper shadows right here. So it's trying to work its trend up, but we'll see. We'll see if it does that. So right now, kind of bearish, even though it's kind of clawing its way up, right? Open gap right there too. So it did find some resistance basically at those levels, at those gap levels. So that's another thing to consider. Cost. It's driving us all nuts, right? We want an earnings run. Why doesn't anything give us earnings runs anymore? It's because, I don't know, maybe it's an old thing and nobody does it. The only thing that kind of goes up is the premium, and then they end up getting chopped anyway. So that being said, with Costco, we want to see a bullish close over this level right here, this 292.62. And once we could do that, then we might see a little bit of earnings run. If not, then we're gonna have to wait till earnings and see what it does, and we could trade look for a gap and go, or trade the 15 orb off of that on earnings. It can trade pretty well on earnings with that. So good. Nike. Let's take a look. So Nike. All right, this is day 2. Right? Or actually, it's technically day 1, so 2 more days to look for a possible, right, 3-day unfilled gap reversal, right? So, just put an alert down there. So it tried to get down today, right, but it couldn't do it, right? So it actually finished bullishly. So the other technique is a breakout over an earnings gap high, right, or a big gap up high, right? And so we couldn't get there today, but it has a nice hammer building up here, so it might push over that 92.79. Could be for a good scalp over the next, couple days. GS, double inside day. Wow. Let me write that one down. Add that to the watch list for tomorrow. Give me 1 second. Double inside day. Okay, GS. Good. So with double inside days, what do we know? If we gap up, right, we try to short it. If we gap down, we try to go long through the range, right? Sometimes, though, depending on how big the gap is, right, we might get a gap and go, and it might just, look to fill that later. There's a big open gap down here, too. So there's some cloud support right below there, so we'll see if we can get there, But yeah, it will be a very, very interesting one to look at. And in fact, at this point, we kind of shift the trend here, even though it has been annoying and not closing bearishly for us under any of these pivots. The trend is shifting to the downside, so we'll keep an eye on that trend line there, right? And then CRM, Salesforce, and Session. You know why? You know why I don't trade this thing? It's because of this, right? And even when it does move, it's like that, right? Same thing with Lulu. Really, really tough stuff. It is kind of doing like a little bit of a cup and handle. So if it could get over, what is that? The 15 orb high from earnings, I believe. If we get over that, maybe we get a little bit of spike. But CRM just loves to do this messy garbage, right? It's just such a tough stock to trade, especially day trade. So something to keep an eye on. You'd think it'd be better, right? It's kind of like a cloud company, right? It's one of the biggest ones. It's I think it's consistently profitable, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, I mean they're always making profit. They're always acquiring new companies. I mean, but it's just really, really tough to trade. Anyway, good stuff. Will, what's going on? Good evening. Session. Hey, O2 guys. Nice. Chad, what's happening? Good to see you. Thanks for tuning in. Session, bullish, bearish. Who knows anymore? I know, right? Market Mike. Hey, John. Hey, what's going on? Stalker Psycho. Hope you had a great day. Hope you had a great day, too. A couple names for you. STNE. The Stone Cold Steve Austin, right? So anyway, kind of move down there. 2 lower shadows right here. Starting to work its way up. Could be interesting here. A little bit, lots of low volume today, guys, if anybody noticed that. But yeah, so starting to find a minor pivot right here. If it closes bullish above that with some volume, might be a nice little spike up for us. KR, Kroger. It always reminds me of what was that, the villain in the first Highlander, right? It was like, what was he, like Kroger or Kruger or something like that? But anyway, Kroger. Anyway. Not sure what's going on with these ticks right here, but it was on earnings, so it is possible that it actually spiked down there. If that is the case, then the trend line goes here, and it's generally trending up right now. So it's just kind of going sideways. So Amazing, it's up to 26. So good. Glad they're doing something there with their groceries, as they charge too much. Square, big day today, guys. Big day on Square. Almost swung this one. Just I don't know. It's Square, so it gets a little sketchy. We've got this other pivot right here. So gap up on pretty decent volume. So we'll see if it gets some continuation on that. If it does, it could work its way up to the cloud. I just passed on it today as a swing. So, but yeah, nice ones, Mike, for sure. MTN, Tesla is wild. Yes, it is. So take a look at Tesla, guys. So I tweeted this out today. Anybody who's new here, definitely make sure you subscribe on YouTube. We do this every market night, right? We look at charts and all that stuff. But right, what is the one thing we like to trade, right? We like to trade the inside 60s, right, over the VWAP, right? So one thing we have here, right, we had was a double inside 60s. So actually, let me go to studies and let me make those yellow again, and let me put a VWAP on there. Not a VWAP, a VWAP. There we go. Okay, cool. So this is today's market, right? So we had a double inside 60. What do we like with double inside 60s? Breakouts of those levels over the VWAP or under it if it's breaking down, right? So we were over the VWAP right here. There's your entry, $2.30. And that's one of those ones that we talk about that, this did this back, funding secured, right? Funding secured time. Like, I could show you if it'll let me go back, don't let me go back a year. I think it was in the summer last year, so I'm going to pass on that right now. But really, really neat stuff. Anyway, so here's your double inside. Hey, boom, news comes out, and so we're already positioned for it, right, in that. So, and some of the other tools that we use too, right, intraday, right, our go bars and things like that could have gotten a little bit even better entry in there. So huge move today on Tesla, and it's been crazy. But look at that, it came right up to the 60 cloud right there. So, yesterday, huge move down. Like I said, it's crazy, right? So huge move down, right, and then it gave that this big hammer, right? Actually, 60 anchor closed too, which was gap up and go. So that was pretty amazing too. So really good stuff. And look at it, it's right back up at these levels. So it missed it so much. And look, here's the old trend line too. Maybe it'll try to just get back in trend. And this is just a little blip on the radar, right? Pretty interesting stuff. Robin, good evening. All right, good to see you. I haven't seen you in a little bit. So let's see. So SPY, at least on the evenings. SPY. Let's take a look. So SPY really tried to break down here, right? It was looking pretty bearish the other day, right? But it also quad witching, so lots of extra volume in there. So it was really not quad witching was back here, but it was also I don't know, something was going on with it that was just kind of weird. But it hit a couple of key support levels, and seems to have held. So we have an inside day right now, so we'll see how that works tomorrow. Hopefully we get a little bit of a range tomorrow too, right? I'd like to have some decent range so we can get out of these levels, but hopefully we'll see like a break one way or the other so we could trade that, right? So that could be really, really interesting and could affect the overall market, right? Because it is the market. So that could be interesting. Roku. Getting the beat down still. So, had this epic run up, right? You notice how when it goes up, it's like, a little bar, a little bar, a little bar, a little bar, a little bar. Then it goes up, right? So they really pounded this thing down. So, bear flag right here, came back down, right? Pause day here, big move down, pause day here, try to go back down a little bit, filled the gap, filled the closing gap too. And so now it's just kind of hanging out, right? And this is kind of what I wanted, right? In fact, I'd actually be okay if it kind of drifted down a little bit, maybe down here, and then gave us some amount of pivot and then gave us a nice swing, right, back up to the cloud. So that is kind of what we're mostly waiting for. Otherwise, the trend is down until proven otherwise, and we'll look for bearish setups ideally, unless we can kind of sniff a squeeze coming out of it somewhere. So good. And then Disney. Remember when we were just talking about Disney? Where was it? It was like way back here where we're like, oh yeah, they're doing great with the streaming wars. It's bullish until proven otherwise. Well, it started to prove otherwise, right? And then it had this move down, some chop, little spike to the cloud, and then we were still going down. So the macro trend today, because of today's lows, had a really big lower shadow right here, really, shifted to a macro downward trend line. So we just have to be careful with that. It is getting really, really close to the gap level, right? That's this orange line right here. So if it gets to that gap level, we need to hope it holds. Otherwise, it could get down and fill that gap. So we have to watch out for that too. Fun stuff, right? I thought trading was easy. It's what do they say? It's the hardest, easiest way to make money. So there you go. But it's a great, it's lifetime of learning, and it's fun. I mean, there's nothing I've ever done ever where like no matter how good you get, like you're always learning something new every day, right? It's like, oh yeah, oh, that is neat. I never thought about that before, right? It's amazing because there's millions and millions of minds in this, right? And everybody has like a different thought and experience with it. They have different risk thresholds, and it's all happening like all at one time in the market all day, right? And it's just like, all this stuff, and it's just like, wow, I never thought about that. Oh, somebody, with a lot of money is really thinking this, and it's pretty amazing stuff. So anyway, document what's going on. Diz, cool. Just looked at Diz, so that's good. SE and TTD, yeah, let's take a look. All right, we'll see limited. It's starting to do a little something here. So last time we looked at it, right, we had this downward trend line here, right? Actually, now we have this low here. We could activate this. It's an old one, right? We could put that there. So we have a couple downward trend lines. This one here from this peak, right? And then this one here. So it is still having trouble closing above this minor pivot right here. If you can get a bullish close there with some volume, we might see a spike out of the cloud. It has a little bit of trend line resistance right here. So so just have to be careful with that, right? Because like here, look at it, did down, tag, right? So we just have to be really, really careful with that. And then TTD. Boom, there's that move down, right? It was a little bit of a bump and run, right? Kind of came back down, tested some old levels, right? These levels here are back from earnings, right? These are the 15 orb levels from earnings, if you could believe it, from 2 earnings ago, right? So it's back retesting those levels, so we'll see if those hold. If those hold, actually, we might see it, start to work and get over this trend line and give us a nice run up. I'd be okay with that. So that'd be cool. Good. Mike, peace. What's happening, man? Amazon. Okay. All right, let's see. So Amazon, gosh, Amazon is having some issues, right? So it's trying, but it needs to hold these levels bad, right? And with futures down pretty bad, Amazon could get flushed. It is still downward trending, right? And it is even micro downward trending. And the next level is down here at the 1682, 1673. Right? So when these things move fast, right, we need like, key setups, right? And that's what we do intraday too. We use our go bars on the 5-minute time frame and have some really, really cool levels that we use there that really help us, get opportunities to capture some of these big moves. So we have to keep an eye on that one for sure. Thomas, what's happening? AbbVie. So AbbVie is, this trend line is must be old, so that is there. Put in a new high there, so there's your levels right there. So AbbVie's holding trend. Still looking pretty bullish right here. Big gap right here, so it is really working its way up, right? And so, yep, bullish still proven otherwise. And what else? Shirley asked about AbbVie too, right? I lost you. There we are. UNH and EA. Yeah, so UNH. Oh, I tweeted about this in the private group today. This is one I took my eyes off of. Minor pivot right there, bearish closer right here, and move right there. Guys, this was like a like a 20x trade on the options, and I'm like looking at it, I'm like, oh man. And look where it went, right? It went back down to seller support, right? So, buying support right here, and it hit the fib fan line too. So, obviously it needs to hold here, otherwise it's got a lot of space below, right? Possibly that 208.07 is the next one, and then you got down here. Right, so very, very interesting stuff. So we'll see if they hold it there. Obviously, Mike, right? We want this thing to go to 0, right? So, but anyway, we'll see. EA. Let's take a look. EA. Bottom pivot. Just can't close below it yet. Right? It keeps on putting minor pivots down. So EA has been really, really tricky. Look how nasty it's been a couple of these levels. So EA is a tough one to swing for sure. And it's a tough one to day trade. So that's a tough one. So Seneca Flowers, what's happening? Howdy. Thanks for my pleasure. Thank you for your support. Disney. That's 3 requests on Disney. Let me go ahead and pull it up on a different perspective here. So we have Diz. All right, I need to fix this. It's driving me nuts. Here, price axis, time axis. Let's do 100 bars to the right. There we go. All right, now I can zoom in a little bit. All right, it was locked over there. So Diz, right? Here's our levels, right? Here's the macro trend line, right? And you can even see, like, it just keeps on coming back. It keeps on pushing its way down, right? It's still trending down, right? So we just have to be careful with it, right? It had a nasty move today, right? Look at that nasty move at the open. I mean, it was weak, right? 15 orb. I mean, when you see that type of, right? Well, Look for opportunities, right? This is a nice opportunity right here, right? Nice upper shadow, right? Southern doji, almost a graveyard doji, and then down, right? That would have been good from 131 to 121. On Disney, that's a good move, right? And then it recovered a little bit. So spike, ledge, up, right? Let's see how it looked on the 5-minute. The ledge wasn't that pretty, but this is your kind of your key level right here. Even if you drew a trend line, right? That's your major minor pivot right there. Once we close bullishly over that, could look to go along. So neat stuff on that. So that's Diz. K-Man, MC, what's happening? Starbucks, yeah. Buy the drip. We're trying to. Let's take a look. Okay, so what I do like about it is it's holding trend, right? So that's one thing. So we could look for bearish setups in it, intraday, right? And I don't know if I said bullish or bearish before on Disney, but I meant bearish, right? So we could see that. And look at that. This actually did on the daily one of those spike and ledges, right? Here's your spike, here's your ledge, right? Once it broke down below this level right here, right, of the ledge, which corresponded with 2 key reversal levels right there, right? Then we flushed, right? And so now the trend is kind of down, but it's got a little minor pivot today, so we'll see if it can get bullish and close above that and then maybe work its way up the cloud, right? It's starting to break down at the cloud right now on a downward trend line, so we just have to be careful with that. Okay? Chad, Adobe. Let's take a look. Yeah. Wow, that's a better move than it had on earnings. I'll tell you that much. So it's back at those levels right now. So for me with Adobe, we want to see. I want to see it get over that cloud. But there's your level. So today's actually the first minor pivot. If we close bullishly over Adobe, we might get a little spike through the cloud. That's worth adding to our swing watch list here. Put that on right there. I like that trend line. Good. Shirley has a few. AbbVie we already looked at. TSM. Okay, time on semiconductor. Whoa, that was a good move right there. Nice. Here to here. Good. Yeah, holding trend. That's looking good. XLU. There. There. Yep, holding trend. That's also looking good there. The utilities are staying strong. Nice little safety stuff. Kim. Nice one. Ooh, activate. There. Had to attack that guy right there. I mean, we could do this too, but moving up. Looks kind of like a little alligator coming out of the swamp here, doesn't it? It's like, anyway, it's bullish until proven otherwise. And EXC. Exelon. Exelon is an excellent idea. Bullish until proven otherwise. Excuse me, quick sip. Good. Good, good, good. K-Man, message retracted. Cool. Heather, good evening. Robin, I know it's been tough to get here lately. I know, right? Love the sound effects. Thank you. One day we will get. We've been talking about it a little bit. Like want to get some music on here. I would like to get. I've been asking my son to figure it out because he likes YouTube and all that stuff to figure out how to do like intro music and stuff like that, waiting music. While people are waiting in the lobby and stuff like that. Kind of cool stuff like that. But we'll get there. Doc, what's going on? No pleasure. No problem. My pleasure. Market Mike. Hey, John. Wait, I missed. Sorry, I'm jumping around here. What happened? Mike, how did you repeat yourself? Like that's really weird. So I was like, did I just skip to the top or no? Seneca, cool. Good stuff. John 1, what's going on? Gold. Let's take a look. Gold. Here's Barrick Gold, right? So we've been looking at this a little bit. So here. Low, there's that pivot right there. Close above it. Nice little swing we had on that. Right, move right here to the highs. There's that. Little bearish close below this level could be interesting, but it's holding cloud. So, tough area right here. But could kind of slowly work its way up, especially if we're down, right? Especially if futures are down. This could get a little bit of a spike. Ooh, 8 points. We'll see if that holds. AK. Oh, CVS. Thank you for bringing that out one. Now, this one, I stared at this one forever yesterday, and I was like, I'm going to do it. I'm going to go short. I'm going to swing this one short. And, I'm glad I didn't because it would have been a rule breaker, right, in a way. I don't know. it's tough here, guys. It's a tough gauge. I like to see increasing volume on a setup day. So the fact that the volume dropped today is kind of like it doesn't have as much power. But wow, it really worked today. It filled this gap here and really pushed down and kind of found that didn't fill this gap down here, but found some buying support right there. So it worked. Right, so we'll see how it does. Right, at this point, right, it can continue down at the cloud if it wanted to. It's going to open gap here, right? So, and it's going to open gap down here for earnings. It really had a nice run since earnings, really. I mean, it's pretty impressive, right? So here was the, here's the macro trend right there. Look at that overlapped that perfectly. That's incredible. I love when that happens. Look at that. That was a trend that we started with, and it ends up being the exact same trend. So that is actually a good reason that we kind of went down, because the bigger the trend line, you guys hear me say it all the time, the bigger the trend line, the bigger the move. And a close under a trend line back that big like this could have been the impetus for that move. So it might have been a reason for a roll breaker on that. But that volume, I wish it were if it just ticked a little bit higher than here, I would have been all over that. I would have been all over it. AAL. Yeah, AAL. Cool. Well, airline stuff. I think Delta had some news tonight. Down move here. Here's your bearish close right there, and it did move down a little bit. Could get some more movement to the downside. Let's just take a look at Delta real quick. Delta. I just want to see what it did after hours. That's about it. It had some news that came out and had a drop. I can't remember what it was. Oh, they're buying something. Yeah, 20% stake in Latam Airlines. Okay, cool. Yeah, so they're shelling out some money. That's why it's down. Okay, good. And then USO, cool. Yeah, USO couldn't hold. Oh, look what it did. Goodness, don't you love it when you have like old charts and stuff up? We have a Fibonacci arc right here, and look what it did. It gapped right up to the arc the other day. Mike, I think I showed this to you, but gapped right. Yeah, because you were asking about it, and then gapped right to here. Right, look what it did. It just slid down the arc. That is incredible. Gotta love when that happens. And back down to the cloud right here. So it might have a little support right here. Right, a little gap. Possible fill right there, and then could work its way back out of the arc, or it ends up sliding down the whole arc there. So we'll see on that. Good stuff. Wendy, good morning. What determines the option strike that you select? Okay, good question. Let me also send the series on options real quick. So just because I did a whole discussion on that real quick. Hold on. There. Let me pull it up. 1 second. Playlists. Yeah, so this playlist right here, guys, is a good one, right? This one really shows you, I talk about everything from, what options to pick and why, and all that good stuff. So what determines the option strike I select? So it depends on the time frame, right? And it depends on the setup. Right, so here, like for instance, if USO, and by the way, here's the USO trend line right here. So USO actually did put a little minor pivot right here. So if we close bullish above that, AK, right, that could be a good long. And so sometimes it has to do with where your target is, right? So there's a couple ways you could do it. Like a lot of times I just like to trade like the 0.70 delta, right? Because that trade's very similar to the stock, and you're a little bit safer in terms of the movements of it, right? But sometimes you go out of the money, right? And and sometimes out of the money is at the target if you're really confident in one, right? So here you could see just if we're trading like the weeklies, and if I'm intraday, right, I might trade the 11.5s because I've got a 0.7 delta, right? It's going to trade a little bit more like the stock, but sometimes you don't get as explosive a move because once something goes in the money, if you can catch that, right, you can get that spike in delta, and that really moves the price up, right? So intraday, I'll trade a little bit out of the money, right? And even if I'm lotto trading too off of these, right, and I have a target, let's say the target is right here at the, say, 12.5, right, then I might look at like the October 4th 12.5 is only 6 cents, right? But you have to be careful, right, because these things can go to zero really quickly, right? They're out of the money, so they have no intrinsic value, right? So but if they do go in the money, you can get like, a 5x, 10x trade off of it, right? So it has to be a setup that you really love to go out of the money, right? And have a high probability at least of doing it. And if it can go in the money, you're good, right? And so intraday, right, I'll look to do, let's just go back to VIV, right? So VIV with that ledge pattern, right, the spike and ledge, right, maybe like right here, I'm like, okay, we're at 154, so if we can get out of this thing, maybe we'll get to 155. Now, granted, VIV doesn't really help because it doesn't have a lot of in-betweeners, right? But at the time, we can kind of just pull up this chart right here, right? So my entry would have been off of the 1430 bar. right? So the 1430 time frame was right here. Okay, right? So I might have entered here, right? And then these ultimately spiked to like, $5 from, or $5.50 from, this $5.40, but it's out of the money and it's a little bit tough, right? Because it's that. So if you go in the money, right, it's going to move a little bit more like the stock, right? So here, right, this kind of spiked up and kind of gave a move like a little bit closer to a point on that. VIV's not really high beta stock, so it makes it tough. And that was that was next month. So, but either way, on most high beta names, that would have been a pretty slick move. So it all depends, right? So if we look at Tesla, right before the spike, right? Let's say we caught this inside 15 to the upside, right? Then do we trade the at the money? Sometimes I'll do that, but if I think it could get up a little bit higher, maybe I'll trade the 235s, right? Because they're a little bit cheaper, and if you can get there and then go in the money, they can explode, right? So there's the thing. So it just all depends. But really, the safest bet is to have a little bit of a higher delta with some volume, right, and some open interest, right? So so somewhere like the 0.70 delta here. So you have like the 240s at this point. It's a little bit more expensive, right? It's like a couple dollars more expensive, but it trades a little bit more like the stock itself. So something to keep in mind. And check out that series too. Keyman MC, thank you. Thanks so much and good night. Thanks, man. Yeah, I appreciate it. Thanks for tuning in. Dimitri, Guy, how's it going? Good to see you. Robin, Delta was up today. It sure was. And then, AK, no problem. My pleasure. Sean, team, let's take a look. TEAM. Okay, cool. So team, right, had this breakdown point right here. This was a little bit untradeable because of the bottom shadow, and we have an inside day today, right? So the question is it going to continue to break down here, or have we seen, the last of it? So it's a really, really tough position right now. It's hard to draw a fresh trend line on it, but it is starting to kind of hold some lows. So we'll see what it does after this inside day. It should be pretty interesting to see how that behaves. My pleasure, Robin. Market high. I don't know what happened with the repeat. Anyways, have a great night. I'll have my plan out in the AM. Nice. Good job, man. Wendy, my pleasure. Yeah, and definitely check out that the playlist too. So good stuff. All right, guys. Well, thank you everybody for tuning in. If you're new here, definitely click subscribe on YouTube and check us out anytime you want. Every market night we do this. We go through a new technical idea and we discuss charts, and it's fun because sometimes we find some really good trades out of it too. So good stuff. Be sure to check out all the links in the description, and have a great rest of your night. Tomorrow's Friday, okay? And enjoy your Friday and enjoy your weekend. So I'll talk to you guys soon. So remember your risk first and stay safe so you can stay in the game. And talk to you soon.